Hi, everybody. This is Josh Becerra from Augurian. This is episode 12 of How I Work. I'm here with Kara Kanis, VP of Growth at GovDocs. How you doing, Kara?
Doing well. Thank you, Josh.
Well, thanks for being here. I'm super excited. You have a kind of a unique story, kind of an atypical career path ranging from startups to large corporations. So it would be great if you could just give us a little bit of kind of tell the viewers about that journey and how you got to GovDocs.
Sounds great. You know, I started out in marketing probably 15 years ago already with a mid-sized computer hardware reseller organization. So stayed there for about 4 or 5 years. And then I got introduced to somebody who was starting up a local startup doing recruitment marketing technology. So software as a service. So I was the 11th employee there. And it was wild ride, right? It's back in the early days of email marketing and SEO and, the demand gen, the guerrilla marketing. And because I was with a startup, it was do as much as you can with not much. So it was, I was there for 5 years. Like I said, I was the 11th employee, grew to, we were about 140 employees. And when we sold to Success Factors, so big, large organization out in San Mateo, right? Yeah. Which ironically got acquired by SAP the next day. So all of a sudden we were SAP Success Factor employees, big organization. And I'll be honest, I stayed with them for about 6 months and I was craving to go back to the roots of, I got the taste of working for a startup organization. And so I decided to go back to that. Found an org company in Plymouth that was an email service provider organization, data as a service as well, and for publishers and media companies. So went back to that, helped grow that company for 4 or 5 years. And then my current CEO of GovDocs found me on LinkedIn and said, hey, what do you think about coming over here? And well, the rest is history. I will have been at GovDocs for 5 years in August already.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, the corporate world isn't for everybody. There's people who love it, that's kind of awesome. I'm a little bit more kind of slanted towards startup and that kind of fast-paced, fly by the seat of your pants kind of organization. So I get it.
Yep, I love the high growth and, so that's where I gravitate towards and loving every minute of it.
Well, that's very cool. So one of the things that I thought was curious when we were talking about doing this interview is you have created client advisory boards like just about at every organization along the way. And I think that's a topic that I don't think I've ever touched on in any of these interviews before. And so I would love for you to just talk a little bit about why are you so committed to client advisory boards? What are you getting? What benefits do you see that you're getting from them?
Yeah. Well, and I'll start with, you're right. So this is my third organization where I've been able to participate. I get introduced, 15 years ago to the first time we put together a client advisory board, and I've carried it throughout the next couple of organizations. So yeah, I'm at, I think 20, probably almost 25 client advisory boards that I've been able to participate and help manage and run. They're absolutely phenomenal. Just for those of you that maybe haven't ever done a client advisory board, it's really just bringing together, a group of your existing clients and, you're asking them to provide insights and guidance into your organization, right? So it's that. And I say this to them, when I open up the client advisory board and we're all sitting in a room, I ask them, please put your board of directors hat on, right? So you have to be objective in some ways. We hey, we want you to be a little bit objective, but you're a board of directors. That's your purpose. That's your objective of being here, right? There's so many benefits and it's also, I'll say, benefits on both sides of the house, right? So not just for us, but for the clients themselves. So we get market validation for new enhancements and expansions, right? And they, of course, it's hard. They have insight and guidance into sometimes what they want, but also what they know is good for good for the organization.
Let's talk about pricing.
Right. You know, we get real world feedback on how our product is being used, right? It's not just us sitting back and going, oh, we think this is how they're using it, or this is how they should be using it, right? Like we get real world feedback from these people on how they're using our products and what they need more of from us. You know, another thing I think that is super valuable, we get insights into competitive offerings, right? So there's a portion of that we, you know, again, nobody's perfect. Nobody has, you know, the marketplace completely locked up, right? So it's, don't be oblivious to the competitive space out there that you're up against. And I think that we get that as well. You know, we bring together individuals that have a lot of expertise. Right. So we get to hear from them. Again, it's that one-on-one. But pre-COVID, right? We're all having to adjust, but I'd like to bring everybody together. These were in-person 2-day events where we're all sitting in a room and having conversations and dialogues and challenging.
So is that happening like on an annual basis or like a couple times a year? And then just talk a little bit about the, like how somebody would even get started. I'm sure you've probably figured out like who to pick and who not to pick, right? Like you've gotten people on your advisory board. You're like, oh my gosh, never doing that again.
Well, I don't know if I have that down to a craft yet, but you know, it's we do it twice a year. We've found that that's a really good, you know, you want to get people together enough so that they get comfortable with you as well as each other and are in a room where they can have that open dialogue with you. So typically we do a spring and a fall. So there's enough time apart, but not too much time, right? Where we can bring back stuff and we can bring back updates since our last client advisory board. And so twice a year has seemed to work really well. And again, in person, sometimes if there's important announcements or, you know, we're developing something and it's not in that time frame, we'll call and say, hey, are all of you guys willing to jump on the phone for half hour? So we've also had kind of intermediate between those times as well. You know, size wise, I like to send out invitations to 15 people so that we land at about 10 to 12 people in person, because I truly want to create that atmosphere where it's, you know, it's not too big, it's not too small, you know, diversification in attendees. I think it's important, I've found, to bring together people from different industries, different company sizes, you know, different titles. Although I will say what's worked most successful is to get your decision makers and your hired. It's not typically the day-to-day people that you're bringing in. So that's worked really well for us. It's been fantastic. Just like I said, you know, it's super important though to also don't lean always towards inviting the customers that love you, right? That they only have good things to say. I make it definitely when we are planning on sending out the invites, who should we have? You want to invite those challenging customers because those are the customers that are going to make you better. So
you
so
don't want to definitely be an echo chamber for sure.
Right. So keep that in mind, I think, when putting together and assembling your list, you know, and we put together a charter. We take it very seriously, and we want our, you know, advisory board members to take it seriously as well and know that we are asking for a commitment from them and, you know, expect things out of them, but they should expect stuff out of us as well. So, so I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. So another thing that we talked about that I think is kind of unique around your story is that you've had the opportunity to manage like marketing, sales, client services, and product, and you've actually done that all at once. So I think that's uncommon. So can you talk, and I think GovDocs, like I think you actually are kind of doing that intentionally, right? And so can you talk a little bit about having one person kind of overseeing everything, how that's benefiting you as an organization, and then how you're like managing those multiple relationships?
Well, first of all, I have to say I have the best role ever, right? Because I mean, truly, like I couldn't ask for a better position in the ability to do just what you said, right? To oversee so many different lines of business. Having that front row to the customer life cycle, I think absolutely benefits in us in the ability to ensure that the GovDocs message, and this applies to like any organization, right? It's the ability to carry that, like, your message across, the customer life cycle. It ensures that it stays consistent. I want the touch points and the experience that the customer is having to be similar, like I said, consistent, whether it's the first time that they see our logo, to the first time they visit our website, to that first conversation with our inside sales rep, right? To the implementation and onboarding, to, once that they become a customer, and our customer communication. So I think it's a huge value that there's no surprises. And we've been able to create a consistent experience across all touch points, and all really come together and like share in that success internally as well.
Yeah. And it seems like then you don't have like competition kind of happening between these silos, right?
Correct. Ironically, 2 days ago, I was interviewing somebody and I was explaining to him my role. And that's literally what he said, ironically, Josh. He said, so Gal, he goes, I get it. He goes, so there's no like competition between like the VP of sales and the VP of marketing. I'm like, no, I'm like, we're all in it to win it together, right? Yeah. Like, it's just like, we're better together. And he's like, that makes sense. And I'm like, and I can really say that doesn't exist here.
Yeah, that's cool. So we've created a ton of content around like the difficulties sometimes that exist between sales and marketing. And so I think you guys are solving it in a really unique way. Do you have any advice for like most people watching this are on the marketing side? So like, how do you navigate and manage sales, or what are the things that you think marketers should really have in mind about like the goals and roles of sales and how we can support them, but also kind of get what we need back? Like, what do you have to say about some of that?
Yeah, I think it's now, and again, and not to be cliche, but like, you have to have openness. You have to have willingness to learn. I think like right away to set the tone is like, we're in a partnership together, and it's equal partnership. Like, everybody gets their opportunities to, to challenge each other, to say, I think we could do something differently. And I think you just got to set the tone. This is where leadership needs to set that tone and say, hey, here's how we're going to work together. And here's why. Explain the why. The why is always super important, right? And demonstrate the benefits of bringing these teams together and, starting it off right away. And then for me, that's the way I've always done it. So nobody knows any different. Like, they should expect it, I mean, be openness, transparent. We have healthy radical candor, and we that's something we do and we live by internally. And I think everybody understands it and gets it. Maybe not right away, but after they see that the strength and the relationship, and then most importantly, the results that come from this, it's become a no-brainer.
Yeah. I do think that a lot of times it's leadership that kind of ends up pitting sales and marketing against one another, kind of like saying, wait, but she's telling me this and you're telling me this. And so like, who's right here? And I think that's a flawed approach for sure.
It is, and again, not to share another example of, like I said, this literally a couple of days ago in this interview, I was telling this person that he asked me about lead sources and, our sales, is it always that, sales always got every deal and it was because of them? And I'm like, no, I said, we have, a great relationship with sales. They understand and know that if all of the opportunities being created, right, and the new deals coming in the door, if marketing has nothing to do with them, well, then I don't know how to help them. Like, it's in their best interest to say the demos are working, or the webinars are working, or that white paper you sent out. I said, because then we're able to create more light content, so it's also, so again, it goes back to explaining the why. It all starts with the why, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, sales and marketing is always about new logos. Like, let's get more of those. But one of the things that came up when we were prepping for this, I actually wrote it down. It's a quote from you. You said, give equal treatment and don't forget about our customers. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I've seen so many organizations, right, that they give it all to acquire that new customer, right? They shower them with information, the sharing of best practices, coming up with ways to solve all their business problems. But then as soon as they turn from the prospect into the customer, there isn't a strong program oftentimes set up to continue to share and to, nurture and give them what you were previously giving them to get them in the door. So I think it all goes around of like being super intentional. That's kind of the word of the year here at GovDocs is intentional, and being intentional in the communications and the programs that you're setting up for your clients and not forgetting about them. If you're going to do a great webinar, invite your clients, right? If you create this great new white paper that's intended for lead generation, share it with your clients, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I can take our role very internally. We take it very seriously to keep nurturing a client as you would a prospect to get them in the door.
Yeah, I think it's really smart. It's so much more cost effective to maintain and that like get incremental upsell from existing clients versus net new logos.
Yeah. Yep. And I think we have a philosophy of like earn their business every day.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So the last topic we'll cover today is, like when we were talking, it was really curious to me how, you love sharing GovDocs compliance expertise, obviously with existing clients, with prospects, and all of that content, email, webinars, the roundtables, the blogs, all of that you do. It seems like there isn't a ton of like self-promotion embedded in there. And so I also want to just touch on that and kind of your philosophy around thought leadership for driving business results versus kind of infusing self-promotion in everything that you do.
Yeah, I think what's worked well for me in my career and for the companies that I've worked with is that sharing of information and approaching it from a thought leadership perspective, right? Like you said, stay away from the self-promotion. This is all about how can we help people do their jobs better, right? Yeah. What information can we give them that, again, they might be able to weave into their day-to-day job and roles and responsibilities that makes life easier or produces greater results, right? So it's that idea of just generating content that makes people better or simplifies their job. And we do it through, like you said, a lot of different channels and a lot of different kind of demand generation programs. So it could be from 45-minute webinars to tip sheets. It could be from a heavy white paper, but I think regardless, we always, when the team is putting together and deciding what to do, it's what's in it for them, what's in it for our clients or our prospects, what's in it for the, the person who's going to consume this piece of information. Yeah. And, I think if we continue to demonstrate our expertise, the business will come.
Yeah, I think that's great. So in an effort to make this piece of content, which already is full of thought leadership and amazing little nuggets for marketers to pick up on, can you give us like, what is that tactic or strategy today that doesn't have self-promotion infused into it, that's really working for GovDocs? Yeah. Like if you had to pick one that other marketers could try, well, two, whatever, tell us what you're seeing that's working for you today that others should try. Yeah,
I think webinars. Now, again, I say webinars, there's a ton of webinars out there, right? I would ask, so a couple things, they're producing results for us. They're great. We have 500 plus registrants on our webinars. And we're not paying anybody to promote it. We're just doing it internally with good old fashioned email marketing automation. Our presenters are from GovDocs. Like I said, we're not hiring anybody to be a speaker. And so those are working well for us. But again, we approach each one very thoughtfully. We put a lot of effort and work into trying to define what the topic is. And again, we almost start with, okay, why is this topic important? What difference will it make if I present on this topic? And what are the five, I always say, like, sometimes it's important to start with the end of the webinar and that last slide of like the 5 takeaways and how this is going to help you and what you need to know. And so we put a lot of time and effort into deciding what the topic is going to be, and work really hard on doing that. And I think our results show it, because people keep showing up. And, we continue. We've been doing that program for, I think this is our 4th solid year of doing a quarterly thought leadership webinar, and our results aren't diminishing. So I think that says something for the work that we put into it.
Well, that's awesome. This has been a great How I Work. I really want to thank you, Kara. You've provided thought leadership on advisory boards and kind of bringing a different structure to organizations, putting marketing and sales and client service and product all under one kind of leader. I think that's amazing. Focusing on your existing customers, not just new logos, and then just some of these tips and ideas about tactics and strategies that don't necessarily have to be so filled with self-promotion. So this has been great. I really appreciate it. We could probably go on talking for hours, but we're going to say goodbye for now for this episode of How I Work. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Josh. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.